In a compelling appearance at South by Southwest on Friday, March the 8th, International Women's Day, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, took a significant step forward in her campaign to challenge and reshape the portrayal of motherhood on television. Joined by prominent figures Katie Couric, Nancy Wong-Young, Brooke Shields, and moderated by Erin Haynes, Meghan participated in a keynote panel titled Breaking Barriers, Shaping Narratives, where she discussed, among other things, the critical findings from a study she co-founded with Prince Harry through their Archwell Foundation. This study, a collaboration with Moms First and the Gina Davis Institute, unveiled this week, aims to spotlight the nuances and complexities of motherhood representation in the media. The panel delved into the evolution of the media landscape, transitioning from a pre-internet era to today's digital age. Meghan shared her own encounter with social media vitriol. She expressed her dismay at witnessing the cycle of women targeting other women with online hate, emphasizing the paradox of such actions, given the presence of women in high executive roles who otherwise champion female empowerment. Meghan highlighted the necessity of aligning actions with words to enact systematic change, challenging both individuals and institutions to take responsibility for the content they disseminate and consume. This is Majesty Sussex Report, and I'm Antonio.
The impact of social media on girls' mental health is equivalent to binge drinking. Researchers in France found that girls who look at images of thin women, even for 20 milliseconds, become more anxious about their own appearance. Emergency room visits by girls for self-harm have increased 188% since 2010. There's been a 167% increase in suicide rates for young girls since 2010. In 2010, the percentage of teenage girls when asked how satisfied they were with themselves was about 70%. It has now declined to 55%. So we have a real crisis on our hands here.
There was another recent study from The Economist that found that 38% of women have had personal experiences of online violence, and 85% of women who spend time online have witnessed digital violence against other women, from defamation, hate speech to stalking, you name it. What is the best way to combat or eradicate this kind of harassment?
I think I joked that if I had the answer, it would be so simple. But I think everything that everyone mentioned in terms of, I think Meghan mentioned systemic, and Katie mentioned just the knowledge. I think we all need to acknowledge that this is a problem. This is a mental health problem. This is a public health problem, right? And I think that me personally, as a woman of color who talks about racism and sexism, it's like, hello, just paint a target, on my head. And I've gotten so much social media hate, and also social media hate that then transfers into your real life, right? So I actually quit my last job. I was a professor for 14 years, and I quit because my institution was just not supporting me and supporting the fact that I was attacked. So I had a troll email the president and try to get me fired, right? And instead of just kind of nipping it right there, they actually wanted me to answer this troll. And the troll was just saying I tweeted too much about Asians. That was the critique. And I was like, wow, this is just the level of, they don't understand, right? That the kind of critique that we're under. And so it's not just the platforms themselves need to do better moderation, but institutions like academics are actually being attacked all over. There are watch lists for professors. Sociology is getting eliminated, as a discipline. I mean, it's this constant attack of anything that reeks of progress, right? And I think women and women of color who are speaking up are often bear the big brunt of it. And so we need all institutions. We need people to listen, right? When you hear someone that is working under you, if you are a manager, if you're a president, if you're in any position of power, listen to those who are experiencing this and believe them and make changes and support them.
Amen.
Welcome once again. And I hope wherever you are, what time you're listening to this or watching it, that you're well and there is joy and happiness in your life. And if there isn't, well, we can't depend on others to bring us joy and happiness. We can create our own. So find things that you enjoy to do. Maybe watch a movie. Maybe call a favorite friend. Go for a walk. There's so many things we can do just to relax our minds and bring some joy. Because, we are responsible for our own happiness. Philosophical, right? Thank you for being here. And please consider subscribing, turning on your notification, liking, and leaving a comment. Now, comments that are deemed not appropriate for this channel will be deleted. Thank you. Well, folks, wasn't that an absolutely incredible panel and from yesterday? And I'll try to do my best to sort of do some justice to it, to summarize a couple of things, and to have basically a sort of conversation about it. Okay, I just did this again. If you think I'm speaking a little bit odd or weird, or I may have to slow it down a little bit. I've bit the corner of my tongue a couple of times today, and it's absolutely sore and irritated. So I'm trying very hard not to hit that same spot again. But it's a bit of a challenge. So if you think I'm speaking a bit odd, I am, because I'm trying. Or if you think I'm not at all, then that's good, right? You're like, you don't sound any different. You sound exactly the same way. But I just want you to know that. And if you hear me go ouch or whatever ever so often, it's because I've hit that spot again. I thought the way that the panel was sort of opened, and also when Katie asked Megan to talk about her early age in advocacy, and she talked about or recounted that pivotal moment from her childhood when she challenged a sexist soap advertisement at the age of 11 years old. This anecdote serves in many ways as a testament to the power of using one's voice, right, for advocacy, irrespective of the platform in which you're able to reach. I thought also the thing that I kind of love was when the panel took a momentary sort of detour into a lighter, yet I would say equally profound reflection by Brooke Shields. She humorously contrasted her childhood experience with Megan's, recounting her role in the controversial 1977 film Pretty Baby, in which she played a girl a prostitute, and hopefully YouTube will not ding me for saying that word, but it is a valid word, and despite the stark differences in their stories, Brooke Shields underscored the universal importance of their message. She also reflected on the harsh realities of Hollywood's treatment of young stars and the personal realization of education that she was able to obtain in order to have that sense of value. Megan participation in South by Southwest not only really brought out her commitment to fostering positive change in media representation. As I said in the intro, that representation to motherhood, but also spotlighted the broader issue of online hate and the responsibility of both individuals and institutions in creating a more empathetic and supportive digital environment. And it's through her advocacy and personal experiences, that she continues to champion the cause of women and girls, advocating for a world where media representation does more to uplift, right, rather than undermine. And some of the stats is just, it's crazy. And it's not that I don't know these things. I know it because, listen, I would be lying if I said it didn't affect me. It didn't affect all of us, right? Sometimes I'll be scrolling on Instagram or some other thing, and I'll be, you sort of click on one thing, and then it sort of feeds you more of that thing, even though I just wanted to see this one picture. I don't want now all of this coming to me. But also you start to get, these continuous messages of how inadequate you are. And all these bodies you start to see that are just perfect and people having the best time of their lives. And it when you spend too much time on it, it does tend to it starts to play with your concept, not only of reality, but of your own self, right? Because you keep thinking, I don't know, this sort of mofo kind of idea, why is everyone having all this fun and I'm not? So it was just really incredible. And one of the things that I really like that they called out is, in this era where digital platforms hold unprecedented power in shaping societal norms and personal perceptions, right? I love when Megan said that despite the presence of women in top executive roles who advocate for female empowerment, right, that there exists a sort of dissonance between their expunged values and the unchecked proliferation of online hate, right? Like when Megan said, it's not catty, it's cruel, right? Encapsulates the severity of the issue. Challenging the narrative that diminishes the impact of online toxicity as mere pettiness. You know, her call was very clear to me, right? It is imperative for those in power to transition from rhetoric to tangible actions, ensuring that principles of humanity are not forsaken for profit.
I was with Gloria Steinem one day, because that's what I do.
As one is.
I just hang out with Gloria. No, I was in a group of women, and we were all it was a talk that we all had, and women were starting to talk about, but how do you make a change? How do you make the difference? How do we move it forward? And she said, don't kid yourself. Every major movement started in a room like this with 6 people. And it's those little gems of those ideas. It's the small incremental changes that we have to be vigilant on continuing to do it. So it's having those conversations with your young children and with your soon to be a mom daughter, and change, and really starting on that granular level to have the voices be heard more loudly.
Yeah, all of us being part of that intervention to create the change that we know needs to happen. Megan, last year, the U.S. Surgeon General even weighed in on this, issuing a warning that social media use is a main contributor to depression and anxiety in teenagers. The Archwell Foundation seems to be doing so much work at the forefront of the online world. So you are somebody that is also, walking the walk here, especially for young people. Can you talk about what you've learned and where you think we need to go as a society to better support parents, especially mothers?
I mean, I really think it can piggyback on what Brooke was saying as well. But, with Archwell Foundation, we work with Social Media Victims Law Center, which is very important and heartbreaking work. It's parents whose children have taken their lives because of what was happening to them in the online space, and the level of online harms that are there when you have these beautiful, vibrant children that are either being so aggressively bullied online, or frankly, these young girls who are going online and they're drowning in this world of comparison that suddenly their sense of self has become so small that they don't see a value in being alive. So we've worked really actively with these parents to be there with them in their grief, but also in the interest of affecting change. I think as we're talking about all of this, and yes, this is very heavy and it's weighted, but it's also really real. There is a lot of good that's being done at the same time there's a group called the Youth Power Fund. I was just talking to them before I came out here. They are working so hard as young people who are in it, saying, this isn't making sense for us. We are not just a number or a statistic, and our lives matter. Our sense of self and our sense of purpose matters. So there's a lot of action that's happening, to your point earlier as well, working as a collective. I mean, you mentioned Gloria. Gloria Steinem is one of the people that will say any sort of work that you're doing that is in the direction of good, you've got to make it fun. So even though all this is weighted, she loves working on a campaign. She loves what happens when you come together and you go, you know what, inch by inch, we're getting closer to seeing a much better place, and certainly a better online world. And I think we all just have a responsibility there to weigh in. As moms, it is a really, especially as I was saying earlier, when you're a new mom, it is a really vulnerable time. And the effect that social media can have on new mothers, I mean, even just the lack of sleep because they spend all this time scrolling, but it can also be really dizzying for them to see this portrayal of motherhood that looks so perfect when we all know it's not perfect. We all know that it's messy. I'm fortunate in that, amongst the privileges that I have in my life, I have an incredible partner. My husband is such a hands-on dad and such a supporter of me and our family. And that I don't take for granted. That is a real blessing. But a lot of people don't have that same level of support. So I think for us, it's just trying to put the safeguards in so that women and moms especially cannot feel like they're even more vulnerable when they go online, that they can somehow feel like they are going to a safer place.
and that is Soho House in Austin, Texas. Kind of groovy, isn't it? Kind of neat. I think Harry and Meghan were there to, I'm not sure whether they had lunch there or dinner there at some point, and I'm sure Marcus was there with them. Marcus is the person who manages all the Soho House. He's been a long-time friends of Meghan since her days here in Toronto, so kind of nice. So I wanted to bring you folks a little bit of that so you can see some of the other stuff that they did. You know what's funny? I mean, I had a comment, it's already deleted, so not to worry. A comment, and it was from a woman that said, it's great that Meghan is on stage and she's advocating for women, but it's interesting how she's advocating for women to hate other women. And I thought, oh no, she continued to say, the only thing I got out of that entire 1 hour was how much hate these women have for other women. And my thought was, if that's what you got out of that hour, I feel really bad for you. Like, I don't even feel like, oh, deranger, hater, whatever. I don't. But if you honestly watch that entire hour and that's what you got out of it, I don't know what to say to you, because that was an hour of women who are empowered, women who are bringing issues that are vital to our society in regards to how violence and social media, what it's doing to our children, what it's doing to us in the way in which we treat each other, the way in which it is segregating us and creating these different tribes and camps and putting us against each other. And it's not even just camps and tribes and all this kind of stuff. It's families against family, right? Social media, this whole context, even our press and the way they deliver news, even in the programming, for heaven's sake, right? And I just thought, wow, that's really, really sad that out of that hour, that's all you got out of it, And I really hope if this person ever comes back on this channel and ever looks or checks out any of our, or checks even this podcast, I would say really go back again and see if you learn anything new. Because honestly, if you didn't, again, learn anything new, as Harry said, there's nothing we can do for you. There's nothing. Nothing. You're the problem. Right? Because if you can't see it, then you're the problem. Sorry to tell you. So I wanted to keep that short and sweet and not bring all the other nonsense that they've printed or written about the panel and, over there on the island, and some of the crazy people or some of the crazy things that they've said, like Brooke Shields and Meghan are fighting, and what it was, Katie Couric demanded this and the Duchess demanded that, and oh, come on. We see right through you. We see right through you. So, moving on from that, I wanted you folks to listen to the story that Katie Couric is going to talk about now. I thought it was pretty interesting to listen about her experience. So, here you go.
Katie, I want to come back to you and your trailblazing career, because you were also the first woman to solo anchor the CBS Evening News. Yes, absolutely. And you were managing editor of that broadcast. I don't know if everybody knows that, for the 5 years that you were there. How challenging was that to be a first? And how did being a woman impact the way that you did that job?
How much time do you have? It was really, I'm not going to lie, it was really challenging. I remember after my first night anchoring the news, it was very exciting. And the next day, one media critic said, "Why was she wearing a white jacket after Labor Day?" And I was like, "It's winter white, and I splurged on Armani, God damn it." And then it was like Tom Shales, who really wrote nice things about me, said the way she buttoned her jacket, she looked chubby. Keith Olbermann said she looked like she had been Botoxed. A feminist, well-known feminist who shall not be named, said, I couldn't really evaluate her performance because her makeup was so bad. And I mean, and then somebody else, Dan Rather, who shall be named, said I was dumbing down and tarting up the news. So it was really, really hard. But, you know, I'm very glad I did it. It's funny because I was so upset for a while because I was just getting pummeled left and right in the press. At dinner one night, I was with my daughters and I was crying. And my 10-year-old daughter, Carrie, was like, "Mom, what's wrong?" And I said, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And she goes, "Mom, remember what Samantha said on Sex and the City?" Oh. And I was like, oh, shit, there is so much wrong with that statement. From my 5th grader. And she said, if I listened to what every bitch in New York City said about me, I'd never leave the house.
Well,
and it was so funny. But, you know, just quickly in retrospect, I'm really glad I took the job despite some of those hard days, because I think I brought my sensibility as a woman into story selection. We did stories on sexual assault in the military, on dating violence after Yardley Love was beaten to death by her boyfriend at UVA, a lacrosse player. We did stories on a woman who was raped by 3 basketball players and they were never held accountable at her university. I did stories in Afghanistan where I sat in a room with Afghan girls who were in a safe place where a man could never have gone. So I feel like I really contributed to what was on the show. And I also kept sexism from permeating into the broadcast. I remember I said to one of the 3 male news writers, Jerry, who I love, who had described Hillary Clinton in a way. And I said, "Jerry, would you describe a male candidate for president that way?" So I was a bit of a watchdog to make sure that women's stories were told. And the internal politics, don't get me started. Read my book, Going There. It's a memoir and it's in paperback now. If you really want the juicy scoop on how the people at CBS treated me, they were awful. Sorry.
To these 3 wonderful subscribers, thank you so very much for your generous donation, your super thanks. I really, really appreciate it. HJ said, Sharon, Lydia, lots of kisses, lots of hugs, and may God bless you all, and thank you so, so very much. I get always awkward about this stuff, and thank you. You might have noticed Royal Sussex also there. Baron, I just want to say thank you so very much for always, ever so often, checking in to make sure things are going okay. And I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. You are, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, you are a gentleman, you are a lord, you are a king, you are majesty in totality, okay? You are royalty, my friend. Thank you so very much. And it's so appreciated. Thank you for always looking out for these other channels for all of us and being such a great example for us to look up to and for us to follow. Thank you. I stand in solidarity with women and girls across the globe as we celebrate the remarkable achievements of women and advocate for gender equality. It's crucial to acknowledge the significant role we as men must play in this journey. The fight for equality is not just a woman's issue. It is a human issue that demands our active participation and support. The strength, resilience, and contributions of women in every facet of life are undeniable. Yet despite these advancements, women and girls continue to face systematic barriers, discrimination, and violence. It is our responsibility as men to challenge these injustices, to question societal norms that perpetuate inequality, and to advocate for the rights and dignity of all women and girls. Being in solidarity means more than just verbal support. It requires action. We must educate ourselves on the issues facing women, listen to their experiences without judgment, and stand up against sexism and gender-based violence. It means creating inclusive spaces where women can strive, ensuring equal opportunities for leadership and decision-making, and recognizing and challenging our own biases and privileges. Let us use our voices to amplify the voices of women, especially those who are marginalized and silenced. Let us commit to being allies in the truest sense of the word by supporting women's movements, advocating for policy changes, and contributing to creating a more equitable world for everyone, regardless of gender. On International Women's Day that we recently celebrated and should continue to celebrate, let's renew our commitment to gender equality. Let's work together to dismantle the patriarchal structures that hinder progress, and let's build a future where everyone, regardless of gender, can live with dignity, respect, and equality. The journey towards gender equality is a shared one. And as men, we have a crucial role to play. Together, we can make a difference. In solidarity, now and always. Thank you.
Close our eyes, the current sweeps right over us. Feel the world spin around again for only us. Hold your breath, we're diving into something bigger than anything we've ever been.
Yes, social media is a environment that I think has a lot of that. It's really interesting as I can reflect on it. I keep my distance from it right now just for my own well-being, but the bulk of the bullying and abuse that I was experiencing in social media and online was when I was pregnant with Archie and with Lily and with a newborn with each of them. And you just think about that and to really wrap your head around why people would be so hateful. It's not catty, it's cruel. Why you would do that? And certainly when you're pregnant or you have a newborn, we all, as moms, it's such a tender and sacred time. And I think, you could either succumb to it or nearly succumb to how painful that is. And maybe in some regards, because I was pregnant, that mammalian instinct just kicked in. Do everything you can to protect your child and as a result, protect yourself too. But, I think as we look at what's happening in social media, there is so much work to be done in terms of keeping people safe. And that starts as we see what's happening with children and their exposure to things, but also just creating these habits that what I find the most disturbing, frankly, especially as a supporter of women, is how much of the hate is women completely spewing that to other women. And I cannot make sense of that because I understand that there are certain platforms. Look, today's a really good example. This is being streamed on one of those platforms. And it's also fantastic because people are going to have access to hear all of this brilliance and all of this insight. And at the same time, it's a platform that has quite a bit of hate and rhetoric and incentivizes people to create pages where they can churn out very, very inciting comments and conspiracy theories that can have a tremendously negative effect on someone's mental health, their physical safety. So I think we have to really take a look at that when we're talking about how many women are in leadership positions, as you're saying in broadcast. There are a lot of women that are at the highest level, executive level, who are great champions of women, who are great philanthropists, and they are working in these spaces, and yet they're allowing this kind of behavior to run rampant. And at a certain point, they have got to put the do's behind the say's and really make some changes on a systemic level. And then, on the flip side of that, we have a responsibility in all of that. The systemic change has to happen at the same time as the cultural change is happening. Because if you're reading something terrible about a woman, why are you sharing it with your friends? Why are you choosing to put that out in the world? What if it was your friend or your mom or your daughter? You wouldn't do it. And I think that is the piece that is so lost right now in what's happening in the digital space and in certain sectors of the media. We have forgotten about our humanity. And that has got to change because I understand there's a bottom line and I understand that a lot of money is being made there. But even if it's making dollars, it doesn't make sense.